the situation we're in now with the pandemic and all that stuff, like I saw a lot of stories showing the creativity to be able to get around that. There were some stories where I saw, good use of the mic in situations where you have to be socially distanced. There was creative things that I saw that really made the stories pop out, as far as, whether it was like a presser and they would superimpose the presser audio and the visuals like on a building or inside the atmosphere of the story they're working on. So like those little things made those stories jump out. And I think for us picking the winners, the stories that stuck out as the winners were the ones that had something memorable in them, right? Like they had a good character, they had good moments. Because there's stories that like technically can be awesome, like, well shot, well edited, sequencing, wide, medium, tight, all that. And those are great. But like when you get a story that has like just a wow moment in it, or like a character that you just can't forget, especially in competitions, I feel like that is the most beneficial stuff. I know for me, when I enter contest, when I'm trying to decide what I'm going to enter, I always go with my pieces where when I watch it, there's something in it that makes me like just go wow, or like I just can't, I can't forget that. And I think, that was for this competition. And like, when you enter in the future, I think that's a key thing to do, because you got to think like, say there's 20 entries and the judges are watching these 20, like what if you're number 15? It's like if you have something in your piece that like is unforgettable, that's going to resonate with the judges, that's going to resonate with the people. So I think like the ones that did very well in this competition were the ones that had those elements, also with a well-structured story. We just had some moments in there that were just like really, really good. And then, yeah, like I said, there were some like in-depth pieces that were investigative type stuff that like blew me away. Just like the commitment to some of these stories really showed. And you could really tell, especially, the Nat Packs were awesome, but when you watch stories that you could tell a reporter and a photographer worked on together, you could tell that they really came together on it and put ideas together. It wasn't just a one-sided type thing. But no, I mean, it was overall, my team said the same thing. They really enjoyed it because it's fun to watch good work. And there was a lot of good work in this that really, really stuck out.
Were there any specific, like, I know that you like had some awards that you gave. Were there any specific ones where you were just like, those wow moments you talked about, where you were just like, oh, that is not something I expected?
Yeah, I mean, there was one where I'm not sure if it did place, but it was about this little girl that was a in gymnastics, and they had a great reveal. Like I'm a person that loves reveals in the story, and the reveal was like she didn't have legs, So it's like, for me, it was like one of those situations where I'm watching this piece. They shot it in a way where at the beginning they didn't give it away. You see this girl doing her thing out there on the mat, on the bars and all this, and then the reveal is like she's doing all this with no legs, So like moments like that, like really, really resonate. There was one piece about, it wasn't just like wow moments, but it was about, had like chickens and roosters and stuff in it, piece. And just like, there were so many good gnats, and like they had that character, the owner of this place that had all these chickens and roosters and stuff, were just great characters. And they did a great job of weaving in all the gnats of the chickens and stuff, but also like keeping the people going in the story, because they had such good personalities and things like that. There was another piece where it was a guy that's a wood carver, but he's blind, and that was another one where it's like, you sit there and it was a well put together piece, but like it ended up winning, I think, because it was just one of those where it had that wow moment. They set it up perfectly. They didn't give the reveal away right away. They revealed it at the time that they should have. They didn't take too long to do it. But stuff like that, I mean, just little moments that just like, whoa, like make you react, are great. And I think too, it's like, there's a lot of times like when I'm doing my pieces, like when I'm going through my video, like if I react to something that I shot, that's something that I always have to put in my story. Even if it's like something that somebody else doesn't like, if I'm watching it and I'm putting it together and I react to it, whether I laugh or I cry or I cringe or whatever it is, like I know that's always a moment I want to put in there. But if it hits me and I was the one that captured it in the first place, then the audience at home, it's probably going to resonate with them. And that ideally, that's what you want, for when you're sending stuff in for judging or just your normal workflow, is something where somebody's going to remember something and they're going to keep coming back to it, So it's like, so just things like that.
Uh, I'm just going to jump in and ask a question. This is just personal for me.
I am
know
short. I am short. I can't help.
that I'm just curious because I ended up having to put together a lot of sound pieces. So I'm doing I'm a photographer, and I have to do interviews on my own. And COVID has been difficult, just interacting with people and getting them to go on camera and do an interview with you. I'm just kind of curious, how do you approach, or what's your opening line, or how do you convince people to do an interview with you when you're on a scene? And is it different now with COVID? I'm always interested in the little detail.
I mean, because it's tough, because I mean, you're probably like me. Like I'm in this job because I love telling people stories. I love talking to people and all that. So it's weird for me not to be able to go up and shake somebody's hand, or, at the end of it, give them a hug or whatever. I think for me, it's like, I try really hard at the very beginning to build rapport. I mean, my first thing is like, before I even take my camera out of the back, when I go meet somebody, or maybe if it's out and something that's not pre-planned and I'm just meeting them out, like I'll just have my sticks and my camera on the ground, and I'll spend 15 minutes just talking to people. Like, so once I get their trust and just like, find some common ground with them, they tend to like be okay with it, as opposed to if I just flop the camera on the tripod, stuck a mic in their face and said, I need to ask you some questions. So if they like me, if they start out in that 15 minutes and they like me as a person, then they're more open to let me talk to them on camera. And I feel like one thing too, especially with COVID and stuff, is like really being honest with people and like just telling them what your goal is. Like telling them what your process is, like why you're doing this story, why this element that you're trying to get from them is important to this story, and what it's really going to add. So if you're honest with them, just kind of tell them the whole process. I mean, they're not going to understand the technical stuff that we know that goes into our job. But if you just say, hey, like, this is why, you getting on camera and talking about this will really resonate with the viewers and really take this story to a different level. Because I always tell people too, I thank them at the end. I say, I promise you that I'm going to do this story the best to my ability, because it's like, you allow me into your life, a stranger that you didn't have to. So how bad on me would it be if you allow me to do this and then I half-assed the job? So like, I just always try to resonate, like, listen, I'm going to do this story justice, so if you just help me, if you'll play ball with me, we'll do this together, and it'll be a story that you're proud of and you can look back on and,
right.
Be glad that you were a part of, for sure. So.
No, I just think that that's really interesting, just because I sometimes you find yourself like, wow, should I be, I guess if they trust you in the beginning, then they're going to trust you like in their personal space, I guess, a little bit more, micing someone up or using a stick mic, or I think that's a good idea to just chat them up, let them know what's going to happen ahead of time. Then maybe they'll.
Yeah, and the thing too is like, a lot of times obviously we got to do weird things now with miking and all that type of stuff. So like, I'll kind of joke about it, and like when I'm setting up a mic with a stand and putting it in front of them or whatever, I'll be like, this is like the new norm. This is why we're having to do this. And a lot of times, like if I'm putting a lav mic, like we're still putting lavs on people, given the situation. If it's warrants, like you have to have it. A lot of times I'll bring out a disinfecting wipe and I'll wipe it down before and after, just to show them, like in front of them, so they see that like we're taking all the precautions that we need to make sure that they're safe and we're safe too. So I think just like visually just being open and just letting them just kind of see everything that's transpiring. And again, just like being honest with them and telling them like what this story is, what you're hoping to gather, what our goal is in this story, works out a lot. But yeah, I think just it's a simple thing, but I think just being a good person, and if they like you, like they just think that you're a good dude, they're going to open up to you more. And, when you have that, like the sound bites and stuff you get throughout the shoot are going to be so much more impactful because they feel comfortable around you, as opposed to being nervous. And, it's like, I know we still got to give 6 feet, but I still, a lot of times, especially if I'm working with a reporter or even sometimes by myself, like I'm never up in anybody's face anyway. I'm always kind of laying back, well distanced, well composed shot or whatever, because I think it just makes people feel more comfortable. Because like now this year more than ever, I'm in front of the camera now before I'd never done before, and it's nerve-wracking. Like people get nervous, But I think if you just make people laugh, joke around with them, get them feeling comfortable, just be like, hey man, I'm just a good old Kentucky boy here. I should have brought you some sweet tea. I apologize. But, and just get them comfortable, and they'll open up to you. So, but yeah. And finding common ground. Like I said, if you're talking to somebody and like you find out that you guys have something that's maybe not exactly the same, but something you can kind of go off and you just get that conversation going. Next thing you know is whenever you go, hey man, do you mind to kind of just put a little microphone on you, ask you a few questions. Nothing's live. If you say something you don't like, we can just do it again. And then at that point, they're like, sure, man, whatever. Okay, fine. Yeah. So usually pretty good about it.
So I'm not a television photographer. I work for a newspaper here in Ohio, but a lot of the things you were just talking about, Mike, are things that I also deal with. Getting people comfortable, getting people to kind of understand what you're trying to get out of whatever it is that you're doing with them. And while you were talking, I was kind of thinking to myself, like the things that I've had to deal with over the last year. And I wondered, do you think people now kind of respect and appreciate the work that you do because of, the pandemic and the uncertainty and the fear and all the stuff that's been going on? Do you feel like when you're out there in the world doing your job, do you feel like people are more receptive to you as a journalist than?
I think, yeah, I do. I think so. Because they realize that, we're out there, putting ourselves on the line too with all this. And I think people appreciate it too, because it's like, a lot of times, people are so secluded in their homes, and people are watching news now more than ever because they got nothing else to do. So they're watching TV. So a lot of times I'll get people saying, thank you for coming out here and covering this topic, because it's something that, I really want to see, and I'm able to see now because I'm spending more time at the house. But yeah, I think people have a lot of respect, and it's, I don't know. I think it's just different for people. And I found it easier too, because I think through the whole pandemic, people have kind of loosened up a little bit more. They've started thinking about, life is short. This crazy thing happened. So a lot of times before, like you go up and talk to somebody on camera, they're automatically like, no, I don't have time. I don't want to. No, I don't want to be on TV. But now it's like, given everything they've gone through, they're almost like, okay, this is a cool experience. This is something that like, I'm down to do this, because you know what? Like I've seen people like started getting out of their comfort zone because they needed a reason to kind of do it. And 2020 kind of pushed them out of their comfort zone. So now it's kind of like when you go up, people are more apt to be like, yeah, I'll talk to you on camera. I'll do this. I wouldn't do this last year, but I'll do it now because why not? Might as well. Life's short. Might as well do it. And yeah, and they're always, I can't remember the last time anything was negative said. I think they appreciate that we're out there covering the news, and no matter the topic, and just keeping people informed, especially, during such trying times of protests, pandemics, election stuff, things like that, and yeah, I felt fortunate for that. And the thing is too, I'd always worried about it because, I'm a local Fox station. So, how people always perceive that you're automatically the national Fox. But, once you kind of break down those barriers and kind of let them know that it's not the same thing, they're always been super cool. So.
To jump back to the contest really quickly, I know to jump back and forth, but so you mentioned some great things that you saw on the contest. Did you notice anything that maybe some videographers should work on, or anything that maybe you saw over and over again that maybe you're like, it's kind of, something you like to see done differently?
I think it was situations where, we always look at technique and stuff, right? And anytime like you see something shaky video or whatever, as a photographer, you're always automatically like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? I did see that in some pieces where it was, situations where there was no need for it, right? Like there's times you need to throw the camera on your shoulder, get up in the action or whatever, and do it that way. But there was times where it was like off the shoulder type stuff in a wide shot scenario where very easily you could have just threw it on the sticks. And, I think there was some great structured stories where like you watch the story, it's like well shot, well edited, but what it was missing was like finding natural moments, finding little things to trickle out throughout the piece that really make it pop. So it went from like a good story, but it could have been great because you were just missing elements of like gathering like some little nat pops to bring in, or like having that mic on somebody and just capturing some natural moments of them like having a conversation with somebody to trickle out through the piece. You know, it was there were some pieces that were very your typical like VO shot, track shot, you know, as opposed to pieces where you could have broke it up with some good nats and some good things to really like just make the piece pop. And there were some pieces too where like they were really good pieces, but at the end of it, like I don't know if I really understood what the story was all about. I think that's one thing that's kind of tough is, you know, you really got to find the focus of your story. Like, what's the focus of your story? And then once you find that, then you can go out and get all the elements to support that focus of your story. There was some stuff that was just kind of all over the place. So I think in you know, when you go to put stories together, to kind of really look for like what's the focus of the story and stick with that theme throughout, as opposed to just kind of jumping all around type thing. But no, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of good pieces. There were some situations where, you know, audio wise, you know, it jarring parts. I'd say one thing, it sounds simple, but like just having seamless audio is like a huge thing. Just kind of interweaving your audio throughout, as opposed to just abruptly hearing a nat pop and then just shuts off and you go to something else. Those are just little things. I mean, I feel like sound is one of the most important things for a piece. I mean, it carries the piece along, right? And if you ever have, you know, you need to try to find a way to do that throughout, especially like a longer form piece. It's going to be 5 minutes or whatever. You got to have a situation where you figure out a way to get creative. And, you know, people's attention spans are super short. So like, what are you going to do to be able to wake that person up? You know, if you get to the 3-minute mark and they're starting to look away and get distracted, what are you going to do to bring them back in and go, oh, okay, I'm invested in this story. But no, I was super impressed with all the work that was done. Like I said, it really showcased people getting creative during the pandemic and stuff too. No, I thought it was great. It was some good stuff. But yeah, just simple little things of just, you know, when you're getting a shot, like don't waste time on just getting throwaway shots. I mean, how many times you're getting a shot, you're looking through your viewfinder and you don't love the shot and you know that you'll probably never use it. Well, you just wasted 10, 15 seconds of your day doing that on these different stuff. So I feel like, you know, a thing too is just when you hit record on something that you plan on probably putting in the story, potentially could go there. Don't waste time on just getting crap. Like if you're sitting there shooting and you see the camera shaking, do something else. You're not going to use that. So it's like, go find a way to make it more stable and something that's actually going to be usable in your piece. And just a little, you know, just little simple things like that.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Obviously this past year in 2020, there was a lot of, you know, the social justice movements and stuff like that. So obviously we're out covering big protests and everything. Do you think that those pieces are judged differently from other pieces or anything like that? Just because sometimes, like, for example, we had one in Cleveland, I mean, massive amount of people, thousands of people showing up. Are those judged differently, you think?
I think those are judged. When I've judged or looked at those, I'm not looking at so much the technical aspect of it. I'm just looking at how the photographer dealt with the situation they were in. I mean, that's a situation where you talk about like shaky shots and like not your stereotypical technical, like good crafted, where that kind of goes out the window. Because I mean, you got flashbangs coming, you got gas coming at you. I think those are judged more on the composure that the judges see in the photographer that's gathering that, like how, you know, this intense environment's going on, but they were able to capture these certain moments. You know, they didn't just the shot isn't just them running with the camera. It's like they, that moment they stopped and they found that person that was jumping on top of the car. They were able to zero in on the cop that was shooting the gas into the crowd. Like, so being able just to, through all that, focus in on different things to capture, and still in the way to put it together. So it's like, you know, if you're going to put a package together on a protest type stuff, you still have to go through elements where when you're cutting it, it works. So it's like just being, having the mindset of like, while you're shooting this stuff in a tense situation, yeah, it's not like the prettiest stuff, but like still making sure that you get the common things. You get tight shots of things, you get wide shots of things, you get medium shots. You're still looking for reaction. So it's always looking for like, you know, while all this is going on, you know, looking over and noticing that there's a little girl over there that's getting milk poured on her face because she got some of the gas in her face, and going over there and having the incentive like, this is something I need to visually grab right now. This is something I need to incorporate in the story. So I think it's just, that's more judged on just what they're able to do in such an intense situation. Like they're not looking for pretty well composed shots and that type of thing. They're just looking for, you know, you took a deep breath, you went out and you did your job, that thing. But
To kind of go off of that, did you cover protests in Seattle this summer?
you know, I went out a couple of days. I was fortunate enough where I wasn't in like, we had some really bad days. We had some really ones off the start. But I did go out to a couple, you know, that weren't as intense, but I mean, there was still gas being going off, stuff like that. But it wasn't a situation where, it wasn't a day like where they were lighting police cars on fires and taking AKs out of the back of them. You know, we had that type of scenario, but yeah, I was out there for a couple of them.
Was there anything afterwards that you felt like you where you felt like you learned after that experience that you just were not prepared for, or that you didn't expect to kind of encounter while you were doing all that stuff?
I think when I was covering just how people just didn't care. Like they didn't care. You know, a lot of times it's like in the media, you know, you feel safe at some point, like you go to a breaking news scene or something like that, cops are around or whatever, like maybe it's an intense situation, there was a shooting or whatever, but you still kind of feel safe because there's a police presence there. I think for me, it was people didn't care about the cops. They were pissed at the cops. So I'm out there with a camera on my shoulder doing all this stuff. My security level is gone because like they can do whatever they want to me because obviously they don't care to do this to the police officers. So I think it was just looking around and seeing how lawless people were. Like they were just busting out windows and going at police officers and doing all this type of stuff. And it's just like that, my security blanket was gone because like you got to hold it together. But there was times where I just felt like if anything happened right now, like there's a good chance something could happen to me right now or my reporter, because these people just don't care. So I think just the people just were so enraged during the protest that like, you know, and you take that on top of being cooped in the house for a pandemic, like the aggression level was just so high. You know, people were just, they weren't thinking straight. It was just, and you could see it while you're out there. I'm just fortunate that like I never really had anything, you know, I didn't get pushed or attacked or anything like that, but I did see it happen to other crews. And it's just because I think at that moment people saw a camera and it was just a means for them to be like, okay, chaos is going everywhere right now. I'm going to go out here. I'm going to make it even more chaotic, but I'm going to do it where everybody can see. And that's a kind of a scary thing because they just, like I said, it didn't matter that cops were to my left or my right. They just, wherever they wanted to do, they felt like was okay because it was just such a hectic, crazy scene at the moment. Yeah, and you know, I never, you know, one thing we made sure we did as a station, I don't know if you guys did it as well, is we never showed logos. So I would never wear anything that had my station ID on my jacket or my hat or anything like that, because I just felt like that's a smart idea, because you don't want to go out there and, you know, as soon as somebody looks at your jacket, they see something they don't like your station or whatever, you're instantly a target after that. So.
Yeah, we did the same actually at Fox 8, same thing. We kind of did that. All the white flags we took away. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was crews that I saw though, like, and I shaked my head. I was like, what are you doing? Like I saw one reporter that literally everything she had on had her station logo on it. It was a hat, a jacket, a mic flag. I'm like, that's just like, you're just setting yourself up. Cause I mean, there's going to be somebody that regardless of just being mad at the media at the moment, they're going to see that. And before this even happened, they didn't like your station for whatever reason. And, you know, and stuff like that. And another thing too, we never did, you know, a lot of times these protests would happen at night. But, you know, obviously when you go into that, you always like, oh, it's dark. I want to throw a light on. I got to get this. Never threw a light on. I feel like, you know, you in a protest type of situation, you throw your top light on or do anything. It's like you're like attracting mosquitoes. You know, it's just like people see the lights and they're just like, okay, let's go over here. Let's take that guy down. So it's just like, you know, taking little precautions like that just keep us safe, I think kind of works.
Yeah, I definitely, again, I don't work in TV, but I definitely had those same experiences as you did when I was covering protests this summer, where you're walking around with 2 cameras and a big backpack and you are a target. Like people see you and they kind of immediately go, what are you about?
Yeah.
Was there ever a time where you felt like, where you did feel targeted, whether it was during the summer or?
Let me just interrupt. Sorry, we have just under 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was times where it necessarily, they look at me and my reporter, and you could tell aggression was starting to come out. Like they didn't like that we were there. We didn't, and I think in that type of situation is, you can put on your ego type thing and just keep rolling with it and just staying in the situation or whatever, when you can tell people are really getting mad. But if it's a situation where you can tell people are getting aggressive at you and you don't really have to be there and your safety is a concern, just get out of there. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, our thing was, we were fortunate enough too, a lot of times, to have security with us. So it was just, if I saw something kind of start going down, or people kind of yelling at us, or really not liking we're there, it's immediate, okay, let's go. Let's just get out of here. Let's move back. Let's get away for a little bit. Let's let's get our mind set right again, regroup, and then go from there. One thing too, and it sounds super funny, is, obviously I'm not a big guy at all, but I feel like how you look in those situations plays into a lot of how much you get. So when I would go, like I said, I'm not a big guy or whatever, but anytime I would go out in situations where there's protests, I would dress for it. So, I would go out there with kind of a tighter shirt on, backwards hat sometimes, to blend in. I feel like if you go out there and you're dressed a certain way, super nice, tucked in polo, khaki pants, things like that, in that scenario, you're going to get targeted just by how you look, because you look vulnerable. Now, if you look if you kind of just present yourself like I'm supposed to be here, and you kind of blend in with the crowd, I find that people don't really mess with you, type of thing. So, it's a simple kind of weird thing, but I've just found by doing a simple thing like that, people kind of just don't even pay you notice. Or, okay, he's cool. He's with us. He looks like a legit guy, and they just kind of leave you alone.
We have about 7.5 minutes left. Any other questions?
No, I think this was a great conversation, man. Like I said, I don't work in TV, but a lot of it's nice to know that a lot of things that you guys deal with, we deal with too. I feel like, even though we're using different tools, we're kind of telling stories a different way. We're all kind of dealing with the same issues. How do we gain trust? How do we get people to relax around us? How do we get them to kind of forget that we're there and get at the story? How do we construct that story? And so, for me, especially during the last year, it's nice to know that we all are kind of going through that. And to be, just to speak for myself and the people that I work with, I'm really proud of all the stuff that we did in the state and in the city and everywhere. I feel like the summer, when the pandemic happened and then protests happened, and then elections started kicking up and things started getting crazy, we all grabbed our cameras and we went out there and we kicked some ass. We just did it, so
when it shows it shows you, it's one of those things, all these things that happen, we can never plan for, right? Mm-hmm. So it happens, and you're forced to adapt to it. And that's the thing where you really find where you're at in the business, where you are at in life, and just all that type of stuff, where you got two choices: you either adapt or you get left behind, and it doesn't happen. So, and then once you go through something like this and prevail, it sets you up for the future, because it's anytime you get hit in the future with something that's hard, or seems like, how am I going to be able to get through this? You'd be like, you know what? I just made it through all of that. So if you're, if we're here right now talking about it, we're making it through. So there's not a lot that's going to be jarring for us in the future. I know we only got 5 minutes left. You're recording this. One thing too, and I think, a big thing for me, it's a simple thing. And I think, for everybody to enter this contest and everybody that's on this call and stuff right now is, the reason that people win awards and their names are recognized and stuff is because they have passion for what they do. I feel like that's the one thing that you can't lose. If you're going to work in this industry, you have to legit love what you do. You have to enjoy talking to people. You have to have the passion to do good work. Because if you don't have that, it's going to wear on you so hard. You're going to get to a point where you're on constant deadlines. You don't think you're producing good work, and you're going to be like, what am I doing? But you've chosen this career and chose not to be passionate, and you're stuck in it being miserable because you still got to make money. But if you have the mindset of every day you're going to be leaving your home. Every day I'm leaving my house and I'm leaving a 2-year-old that's tugging at my leg saying, Dad, don't go, stay home, stay home. Well, I still got to go out and do it. So if I'm going to leave this situation that I want to be in and have to go out and do something, you better bet that I'm going to bust my ass and do what I got to do to make that day worth it, you know, because I just had to leave this situation. So it's just like, don't lose that passion. If you're passionate about what you do, it's going to show in all the stories that you do. I mean, whether you like it or not, because if you care and you care about the people that you're doing the story over, it's going to resonate. There's no way around it. It's going to show up in the piece because you put your heart and soul into it. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I did a piece that when I was interviewing the people, I started crying because I just couldn't help it, because I generally care about their story. And when you have that mindset, you're going to do everything you can to gather all the elements you can to tell the story in the best way possible. And that all just stems from just having passion for what you do and just giving a shit. So I just say, you know, that's a simple thing, but if you're going to be in this business and be successful, like, just don't lose that. If you start losing it, you got to find a way to bring it back, whether that's finding a back pocket story that you do on the side out of your daily grind to kind of rejuvenate you, a piece that you're really proud of, then do it. But you got to find a way just to keep loving this. Otherwise, if you don't, then it's probably time to get out and do something else.
Alrighty. Anything else? We have about 3 minutes left.
I think that's a great way to end, man.
Yeah.
That's a great fantastic way to end. And like I said, Michael, I on behalf of just, you know, the board and everybody else who's here, I really appreciate the time that you did looking at stuff, being here with us today, kind of talking through some feedback and things. Hey, what's up?
I used to work with Sproles in Ohio a very long time ago. In fact, he was still in high school and an intern, I think, right?
Yeah. Yep.
When
That's when we first met. Yep.
Yeah. Come a long way.
I'm a lucky guy, Sproles.
That's awesome. Well, like I said, thanks again, man. We really appreciate it. And we'll put this up on our website so that the TV people can take a look at it. But honestly, I feel like everybody who works in this profession can gather something for what you had to say here today. So I really appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
I mean, yeah, thank you guys so much. I mean, it's an honor to judge this stuff, and I look forward to doing some more in the future. If you guys ever need any help, just let me know. It was a pleasure, and I speak for my team as well. We all just had fun doing this and collaborating on it, and just keep doing great work. I mean, it's you never know the story and the effort that you put into it, how much inspiration it brings to somebody that watches the story. So keep it going.
Cool, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Hey, nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, you too, man. Hey, William, if you want to stop the recording,
yes,
and then